It's time for your SportsEdge.com Sideline Report with Todd Griffin. Talking sports and more here on 1580, 103.3 WPKY and worldwide at WPKYonline.com. Here's your host, Todd Griffin.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sideline Report. We're on the air from the WPKY studios at 1035 West Main Street in Princeton. It's a big basketball night coming up tonight, and then again tomorrow night for Caldwell County's basketball teams. First of all, the Tigers will go over to Morton's Gap tonight to play Madisonville North Hopkins for the 7th District Championship. The Tigers looking for their first district championship since 2007. Meanwhile, Madisonville has won the last 9 in a row, and the Maroons are the number 1 seed. We'll have the action for you here on WPKY 1580, 103.3 tonight, beginning at about 5:45. Game time is 6 o'clock over at Hopkins County Central High School as the Tigers and the Maroons will play for the district championship. The girls will take center stage on Friday. Again, Caldwell County and Madisonville in the championship game. Once again, 6 o'clock is game time over at Morton's Gap, and we'll have all the action for you right here again on WPKY with Dennis Stevens and Bob Hayes on the call at about 5:45. Again, district championship tonight for the Tigers, the district championship tomorrow night for Caldwell County's girls, and if you can't make it to the games, you can hear them on WPKY 1580 and 103.3. We will not have a live video stream of either game, but video will be posted later at WPKYonline.com, so you will be able to go back and watch both of the district championship games. Coming up here on the Sideline Report this morning, we've got Gary Goodaker and Chris George on the show, and we'll get back and talk to those guys right after this timeout. You're listening to the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3 WPKY.
Get spruced up with quality mulch from Bashir Sawmill on Dawson Road in Princeton. We all know that buying mulch by the truckload saves money, and it's only $25 per load for dark natural mulch at Bashir Sawmill on Dawson Road, 1/2 mile past City County Park. Bashir Sawmill also buys standing timber and timberland. Give them a call today, 270-365-2330. That's Bashir Sawmill, family owned and operated in Princeton for over 50 years.
All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton. All the hype of the holidays, and in a flash, it's gone. But what doesn't leave in any hurry are the extra bills and expenses you may have tallied up this season. If the financial excess of the holiday season has you worried, visit ABC Finance. Start the year in control of your finances with the help of ABC Finance. We offer loans from $500 to $12,000, plus no payment until February. Apply online at abcfinanceonline.com or stop by our locations on Fort Campbell Boulevard in Hopkinsville and the Princeton Plaza in Princeton.
Did you know you could be eligible for a rebate when you install a new propane water heater, a new propane range or cooktop, or a propane clothes dryer? You can even get a rebate for installing or replacing a water heater or your primary heating system. This great opportunity is made possible by the Kentucky Propane Education and Research Council, available to Kentucky residents only. There are specific guidelines and requirements, and funds are dispersed on a first-come, first-served basis. Contact Fortner Gas Princeton for details. 270-365-5545.
Welcome back to the Sideline Report. I want to tell you about Dave's Deal of the Week at U-Ride in Princeton. Dave's Deal of the Week this week is a 2017 Chevy Sonic. It's red in color, one owner, and gets great gas mileage. See Dave for details at U-Ride in Princeton. That's U-Ride, 310 Marion Road in Princeton. Telephone 270-365-3215. Welcome back to the Sideline Report. Todd Griffin at the WPKY studios, joined in studio today by Gary Goodaker. Gary, glad to have you on the show today.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for having me, Todd.
Absolutely. And joining us from Bowling Green once again, I call him the mayor of Western Kentucky University, which really doesn't make any sense, but that's me. Chris, how's it going?
Doing well. Glad to be back on the Sideline Report. I look forward to any time you call me, Todd, and say, hey, can you be on the Sideline Report? I love it.
Oh, absolutely. Glad to have you on the show today. And one thing we want to get into right off the bat, Chris, you recently made a big trip to the Super Bowl, so tell us how that went.
Well, I was very, very, very fortunate, Todd and Gary, to get an opportunity to go to the Super Bowl. The ticket came about because of my corporate relationship with the Marriott Marquis Atlanta, and my senior sales rep was one of the fortunate ones to get tickets, and she had to take a client, and she picked me as her client because of the amount of business I had generated for the property over the past year and a half, and I can tell you it was a once-in-a-lifetime thing. I'm still kind of speechless and in awe to think I went to the Super Bowl.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a huge deal for anybody to get to go to the Super Bowl, and I know one of your teams weren't in it, but it's still just a big show to go to.
Well, I think it was better that I really didn't have a rooting interest because I just kind of got to take it all in and didn't really care who won. And unlike most people, as you guys know, I love a defensive football game, so for the most part, it was right up my alley. And just to take it all in was awe. I'm just in awe.
Well, this is Gary here. I haven't got to talk to you about this. I'm glad you brought up that you love defense. You've done our defensive stats for so many years, and you explained that you could look at it from a neutral perspective. How many games have you been to in the Atlanta Mercedes Dome? Is this your first time in the facility at all?
That was my first time in that facility, and it's not a bad seat in the stadium. Got to walk around just a little bit and look from different perspectives. It's not a bad seat in the place. It's just a big, beautiful facility. Really, probably one of the best 3 or 4 large facilities in this country, I'd have to think. The only one thing I would say that they did poorly is, depending on where you're sitting, when they open the roof, you really don't know the roof is open.
Wow. I do know they can do that, but it was closed, correct, for the Super Bowl, right?
They opened it periodically during the pregame for the flyover.
I got you.
They closed
Okay.
it back.
Now, what I would wonder is... Oh, go ahead.
Wow. Just wow.
Well, you go to Atlanta frequently for many events. It's either work or the Braves. But where the location of the Dome is, obviously you expect to be traffic and congestion, but at the same time you expect them to have good logistics. What was your impression of Atlanta's, not just necessarily the Dome, but Atlanta's logistical response to Super Bowl 53?
Well, I've been to Atlanta for another big event. I went to the WrestleMania in Atlanta in the old Georgia Dome as well, and been to a couple of Falcons games in the Georgia Dome. It's always just pretty bad because so many of those streets are one-way streets, and for the Super Bowl, they closed off so many streets. I can tell you, to get an Uber, we had to walk back to the Marriott Marquis, which was a pretty good little piece, just because so many streets were closed off and so many of them were one way that Ubers just couldn't get to you. And that was kind of the case of, of course, WrestleMania was pre-Lyft and Uber, but just so many going one way that it's really hard to get around, and you just got to walk till you can get in clearing where traffic is kind of normal. But the further you got away from the Dome, the traffic wasn't as bad as it normally is in Atlanta, quite honestly.
What were your first thoughts of just the new stadium down there?
I mean, just to walk up to it is just massive and beautiful, and I will give them credit for, they had a large event down to science. Of course, we went through security 3 times before you got to go in, but they were moving people kind of like you probably move people for a basketball game that has 20,000 people there. They just had it down to a science and moving people on through. And I was very, very impressed by the whole thing. The stadium is just big and it's beautiful, and it's something they should be proud of, and I know they are.
Well, what was it like just trying to get around with all those people? And you mentioned the security. I imagine that was pretty tight as well.
Security, like I said, we went through security 3 times before they finally scanned your ticket right before you went in, and they had it set up so well that it wasn't really the only place that I really felt like was chaos was trying to buy souvenirs. And that was just because they had a makeshift NFL store inside the stadium, and it was pretty much you were walking through like they were herding cattle through there, and there was just so many people.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Gary.
Well, one question I had was, I want to get to the game a little bit. Obviously, most of you who are listening would know the first half was, I believe, completely defensive. Did you get a buzz as the game went on that it was a pro-Patriots crowd, a pro-Rams crowd, or was it a bunch of neutral people who were going with just, I want a good game, and when the Patriots got their touchdown, they were just excited to see a touchdown? What did you get as the game feel?
It was a Patriots home game is what it was.
Interesting. Did you think Sony Michel had anything to do with that?
When they got to, I would have sworn I was in Foxborough. That's how loud those Patriots fans got. You would see Rams here and there, but I was surrounded by Patriots fans, and they'd get loud, and you just really felt like you were at a Patriots home game. They traveled well.
Well, do you think that's because they've had so much success lately that a lot of people have jumped on the bandwagon, or are there just a lot of Patriot fans, around the country?
I think it's a lot of bandwagon fans, but I think a lot of Patriot fans made their trips. There was a lot of Patriots jerseys and a lot of very heavy Northeastern accents.
Well, one thing I would think. Go ahead.
They were definitely. It was definitely a pro-Patriots crowd.
Do you think maybe some of these Patriots fans thought this could be the last one with Brady? That they think even if he plays 2 more years, they're to the point now where they go, everyone could be the last one, and it's going to break, and they're finally going to have Belichick and Brady gone. Let's go see it one last time, or are they just that confident?
Think that's the case.
Well, I would think that because of that.
Case.
Yeah.
Well, did you find that most people had a rooting interest in the game, or that most people were just there because they were sports fans and it's the Super Bowl?
There were a lot of people, I think, that were just there for the Super Bowl, but I would say, like I said, that place, when the Patriots were moving the ball, that place got loud. Real loud. That's why I called it almost like a Patriots home game. Because they let you know when they were pleased with what the Patriots were doing. And the Rams, it would get a little bit loud, but not nearly as loud as it was when the Patriots were moving the ball or made a big play.
Well, was the game, the way it unfolded, a bit of a surprise to everybody? It kind of seemed to me like just going into it that it was a game where a few more points might be scored. Did you kind of get the feeling that everybody's like, hey, where are all the fireworks?
Well, to me, I was waiting for the Rams to unleash that high-powered offense of theirs, and I've said this to several people in the days after the game, that I felt like Jared Goff played scared, and I felt like Sean McVay coached scared. I just kept waiting for them to run some of those unique, crazy things they do. And they just never did.
I think my main perception was those are true, but those are consequences of one big factor, and that's having Todd Gurley not at 100%. If I'm Jared Goff and I know Todd Gurley's not at 100%, I'm playing scared too, because I know why those passes are open, and I know why I get those big chunk plays, is because the threat of 100% healthy Todd Gurley makes me 20 times better. And McVay knew that. He knew. If we never know, we know that McVay knew what Gurley was, and it did not look good. And once I saw Gurley not playing well, I pretty much didn't think the Rams had much of a chance.
But here's why, Gary. Here's why I say I feel like he coached scared. Patrick Chung goes out of the game early in the second half in a tight ball game. The back end of their defense, you guys know how I feel about free and strong safeties. I feel like most of the time they're the glue that holds the defense together. They never attacked them deep after Patrick Chung went out. They threw one deep pass. Devin McCourty recovers and bats it down. But otherwise, if I'm McVay, the first play after Patrick Chung goes out, I'm in the Super Bowl with his backup playing. I'm attacking him deep. They did not attack, and that's why I felt like they played scared.
Well, you say they played a little scared, but don't you think the L.A. Rams were maybe a year or two ahead of schedule overall and just getting to the Super Bowl? And for the New England Patriots, it's just kind of old hat at this point.
Yeah, I do agree. I agree that they probably were there sooner than they expected, a little bit like my Atlanta Braves last year in the playoffs when they played scared. They weren't ready to be there yet.
Well, it just looks to me like the Rams are kind of set up for a couple of years down the road when they open their new $2 billion or $3 billion or $4 billion, whatever it is, dollar pavilion out in Los Angeles. And, you know, yes, they were a really good team this year, but I think even the Rams thought, hey, maybe we're not supposed to be here yet.
Well, I'm going to flip the script on you, Todd, and ask you the question.
Okay.
Even though you're the host. Do you think there's still some resentment against the Rams because the owner moved them, and that probably hurts their fan base a little bit, that they don't have the following they would right now because there's still a lot of resentment out there over the move?
I think there are a lot of layers to that question, or maybe the answer. I think if you go to St. Louis, there is certainly a lot of resentment. The reason the Rams left Los Angeles in the first place is because they weren't getting a whole lot of fan support out there, not the same way some other teams out on the West Coast do. I think they went to St. Louis, had some success, kind of built a following. Then the team went down, and yes, the following in St. Louis dwindled because the team just wasn't fun to watch for the longest time. You know, they were struggling to be 500, much less be a playoff contender, but you know, Los Angeles can be a finicky market. I mean, look at the Lakers. When the Lakers struggle, they struggle to draw people, and they're the Lakers. You know, they've got all kinds of world championships and all kinds of history to look back on. So I think in the Los Angeles market, it's just the fans are a little finicky, maybe even spoiled a little bit because there are so many options. And I think the Rams are just going to have to, you know, go out and try to earn fans in that area.
Okay.
I hope that was a good answer.
Well, the thing about St. Louis is that the Rams were always going to be at best number two. It was a rare scenario where the football team would probably never eclipse the Cardinals. In how many NFL markets is the NFL team not the number one professional franchise?
Right.
That's a unique situation that maybe St. Louis is one of a handful for which that it would have been true. So I think the Rams were always going to have trouble, and going to L.A. where there are like two professional teams per league. You've got two MLBs, two NFLs now. There's just so much competition for that dollar that I think the Rams are going to have to do something on a long-term, consistent basis to draw those fans from the 70s.
Well, when the Rams were the greatest show on turf in St. Louis,
yes,
you know, they were almost on par with the Cardinals.
But the Cardinals were still good then.
Right, and the Cardinals are always going to own St. Louis. I can't see any scenario where the Cardinals don't own St. Louis. But the Rams got close, but when the Rams fell off after the Super Bowl years, and, you know,
it also coincided with the Cardinals winning a couple World Series.
Right. I'm not even sure that the Rams, for a while there, were even ahead of the Blues. I think the St. Louis Blues probably had a better following or more loyal following than the Rams did at that point. So, yeah, I think the Rams have always kind of been that weird team that, yes, they have fans scattered across the country, but they never really had that loyal fan base like a lot of teams where you look at the Oakland Raiders and they have that fan base, or you look at, well, the Patriots, they have that area of the country.
Down, yes.
Certainly the Dallas Cowboys and teams like that have those loyal fans that are just going to be there. I'm not sure the Rams ever had that great big fan base, and, you know, maybe once they build their billion-dollar cathedral out there. Maybe that will draw people. I don't know. But they're even going to be sharing that with the Chargers. So I don't know. I don't know if the NFL did the right thing by moving the Rams back to Los Angeles. They probably did the right thing financially, at least for the league and, the overall perception of the league. But I wonder sometimes if the Raiders and Chargers would have been the two better teams to be in Los Angeles, especially since the Raiders had a little more recent history. The Chargers have some, past history in Los Angeles too, but I think that just goes to show, it's a tough market. I mean, sure, there are a lot of people there, but again, there are just so many options when it comes to your sports dollar that
or your entertainment dollar in general.
Right. Nobody's going to support a team that's struggling a little bit, and for a lot of the Rams' history, that's kind of been what's happened.
Well, I think, I believe the Raiders and Las Vegas are a match made in heaven.
Oh, yeah.
That place is that place is crazy enough without the Raiders Nation. I can only imagine what a Raiders game day is going to be like in Las Vegas. It's kind of scary.
Well, I think a couple of things definitely helped the Las Vegas market, talking about professional sports. I think the XFL was a big thing going there, and it's not professional sports, but I think UNLV, when they had that basketball success years ago, I think that kind of opened the door and got people's attentions, and that led to the NHL going there, and then it had success.
Immediately.
Right.
And NHL Stanley Cup Finals, their first year, they proved that you can have a somewhat transplant population. Vegas is mostly transplant population. The key is, can you get that entertainment dollar when clearly Las Vegas has many places to take your dollar?
Oh, absolutely. But it's going to be interesting.
Las Vegas for a lot of people is a destination city.
Yes.
And you're going to see a lot of people, NFL fans, who want to travel to go see their team play in Las Vegas.
The 8 games.
But also you're going to see the Raiders Nation, which is a national fan base, want to go see their Raider. Like I said, I can just imagine people walking down the strip in spiked shoulder pads.
We know some teams have that national fan base, and some teams don't. We mentioned, I guess, the Dallas Cowboys,
the
Pittsburgh Steelers, Green Bay
Packers.
When you look at the Rams, I don't know if they have that kind of following, and I think you saw in the Super Bowl there that's probably why there were more Patriots fans there than there were Rams fans.
Chris, I have one more question. We're probably getting close to our break. After the game, when obviously the confetti, we know the Patriots won, what were the after Super Bowl options that you saw, whether you went to them or not, that you thought, I didn't know that was there? I'm curious about that.
Apparently, I did learn, because I was only in Atlanta about less than 24 hours for the ball game. I was actually not even in Bowling Green to go to the game. I was actually in New Orleans for work and had to fly to Atlanta to go to the ball game and then fly right back to New Orleans for the work event I was to be attending on Monday. But what I didn't know is apparently like everybody and their brother has a post-Super Bowl party. And, of course, like I said, I was the guest of the Marriott Marquis, and the Marriott Marquis folks were telling me that they were the host of Goodell's Super Bowl party that night, that he was having his Super Bowl party in their ballroom. So I was not aware that, like, a Super Bowl post-party was, like, a big thing.
But if you are ever lucky enough to do this again, now you've been educated. Maybe you can get to go meet Roger. Maybe you can get Roger for us. Get him on the show.
Yeah, even though apparently the Marriott Marquis folks weren't even going to get to go to Goodell's party, but they were saying that they were excited that he was hosting his party in their hotel.
Well, Chris, anything else you can share about your experiences at the Super Bowl or the game or anything?
Just that wasn't even something that was ever on my bucket list. That was just something, but wow, just to get to do it and the way it all happened was just crazy. I mean, it's almost unbelievable.
Got another football note I want to throw out there before we change topics here in just a minute, but I saw where the National Federation of High Schools has approved the 40-second play clock for next season. I'm guessing that is coming to Kentucky pretty quickly. I would think they would probably do that this fall. Play clock has been at 25 seconds, but that's been after the official spots the football. The 40-second play clock begins as soon as the previous play ends. A lot of people think there'll be more time between plays. I'm not sure that I agree with that, Gary. How about you?
Based on what I've seen the last couple of years and officials being able to spot a ball, I can't imagine that this would actually slow down play. I think it takes them 25 seconds to spot it. You, in essence, have a 50. I'm not kidding. You've seen this, especially when we play Murray. I think it took a minute per play. That's why I was bored in Murray games, because I would write down their one running play and wait 50 seconds for the next one.
But the Murray game wasn't because they were spotting the ball slowly. It was because whoever was keeping the clock just was letting it go and not calling it. So, if whoever's keeping the play clock at that point lets 40 seconds run off, and I think that's what happened the Murray playoff game that one year. They were really letting Murray
that's why it's imperative a team that plays as Caldwell does has, as we do, the visible clock.
So, Todd, with this change, will the team be required to have a visible clock, or will it still be kept on the field by the officials?
I'm guessing that because of the money involved, it will still be an officials thing, but I do think you're going to see more and more high schools go to the clock there in the stadium where everybody can see it. It sure is. When you're out here at Tiger Stadium watching a football game, it's so great to be able to glance over and see the play clock and not have to count on, the officials calling it, maybe a little loose or a little tight or whatever.
Well, before we transition off of football, I'm going to go ahead and put my little public service announcement out to say that I believe what they're doing with the playoffs is horrible.
Well, we're hoping at some point that maybe they will revisit that before next season, but I've got to admit I'm not a big fan of the playing in your own district and those kind of things.
I'm also not a fan of telling people about your desire to be in a class and then changing the setup after you've made your decision. I'm a big data person. I want to know all the information before I make a decision. I'm not saying that I would have done differently, but if I had been told that you would have had to get out of your district to advance to round 3, I might have decided to play up in 3A.
Absolutely.
But you can't do that when you don't know all the facts, and that's what bothers me about this situation. If they had been thinking this, they either need to A, implement it in a new cycle, or B, they should have said that this was the way it was during the entire process.
Well, I just believe, good or bad, don't really care if people think I'm out of line for what I'm getting ready to say. I believe sports in Kentucky, baseball, softball, and football, with the recent postseason changes to all three, have done nothing but to hurt those sports.
Well, the baseball situation doesn't make much sense to me because you set it up in a pretty decent way for the smaller schools to have a chance to have the round of 16 and the quarterfinals one week, and then you can reset your pitching for the semis and the finals should you be fortunate enough to get there. Now all you've done with having the round of 8 in one weekend is you've just made it harder for the small schools to compete.
Well, you're telling you now that you can get to the state championship with one stud pitcher. You can get to the Final Four or the Final 8, and then in the Final 8 you need 2 pitchers.
Yes, which you can get the Final Four with your one stud if you time it right.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting is what I've been hearing about the time frame of this is that your regional tournament has got to be played quickly enough that this semi-game between whatever, 1 and 2, 1 and 3, whatever regions it works, this sectional game, you've got to even know when it is to set up your regional rotation. You may not be able to save your stud to the regional final. You may not have enough days before that sectional game. So then what do? Do you save and not have that person available or not get there? It's just another layer of what small schools definitely have to deal with, actually probably all schools for that matter.
Should be interesting to see. It's a really difficult call. No matter what the KHSAA does, it's a difficult decision. But I agree with you guys. I think that the decisions that have been made recently, looks to me like they're a step back from what they were trying to accomplish originally, and that's another thing that changes from time to time. The big thing was to get all 16 teams to the state tournament. That was the big push, and we finally got there. And then somebody said, well, no, let's do it a different way. And so you're just a little confused that even the KHSAA, and again, Kentucky's a spread-out state. There aren't any really great solutions, but it seems like this one's kind of going backward, at least from where I thought we were headed. We're talking with Chris George and Gary Goodaker this morning on the Sideline Report. Glad to have both of them with us. We need to get to a break, and we'll be back right after this. You're listening to the Sideline Report on 1580, 103.3.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Today's chance of showers drops down to about 30%. High today 48. 40% chance overnight with overnight lows around 39. Showers tomorrow with a high of 50. Showers and thunderstorms Friday night with an overnight low of 47. And showers and thunderstorms on Saturday with a high of 67. Again, a 30% chance of showers today with a high of 48.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Taco John's.
Black Patch Grill is excited to continue bringing you the taste of Ireland on our menu. Traditional Irish dishes are available for lunch and dinner, so enjoy your favorites like the Irish burger, bangers and mash, shepherd's pie or beef and Guinness pie. And don't forget fish and chips every Friday night. Enjoy the beer of the week with your meal or one of our specialty cocktails. Black Patch Grill is downtown's place to relax and enjoy a meal with friends and family. Black Patch Grill, Main Street, Princeton. Check us out on Facebook.
He gets up early to make sure the ball fields are ready for the Little League game. She stays late and arrives early to make sure the food pantry is stocked and ready to help those in need. These unsung heroes don't do it for recognition. They do what they do because they love this community. They're hometown heroes. WPKY, along with Princeton Drug, want a chance to celebrate what these selfless folks do to make our community a better place. Nominate the hometown hero in your life. Go to WPKYonline.com to place your nomination.
Welcome back once again to the Sideline Report. Todd Griffin at WPKY, joined today by Gary Goodaker and Chris George, and we'll get back to those guys in just a bit. Don't forget basketball action tonight over at Morton's Gap. The Caldwell County Tigers and the Madisonville North Hopkins Maroons in the championship game of the Boys 7th District Tournament. Game time at 6 o'clock. Airtime here on WPKY tonight is 5:45. Tomorrow night, it's the girls' turn. The Lady Tigers will play Madisonville North Hopkins for the Girls District Championship. The Lady Tigers are the defending champions, but Madisonville the favorite this season. Those two teams clash tomorrow night over in Morton's Gap, and you can hear the game on 1580, 103.3 WPKY beginning about 5:45 on Friday, and boys games tonight at about 5:45 as well. Caldwell County senior Darian Boyd will look to add to his career point total at the district championship tonight. It now stands at 1,846 points. In Caldwell's win on Monday, Boyd passed Carol Boyd for fourth on the Tigers' all-time career scoring list. Also want to throw out congratulations to Caldwell County senior Campbell Noth. She has committed to play golf at Murray State University. Noth qualified for the state tournament last fall after an 8th place finish in the regional tournament and was named an all-region golfer. Again, Campbell Noth has committed to play her collegiate golf at Murray State. We're coming back with more on the Sideline Report in just a moment. Gary Goodaker and Chris George joining us on the show, and we'll be back right after this on WPKY.
Here's your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast.
Today's chance of showers drops down to about 30%. High today 48. 40% chance overnight with overnight lows around 39. Showers tomorrow with a high of 50. Showers and thunderstorms Friday night with an overnight low of 47. And showers and thunderstorms on Saturday with a high of 67. Again, a 30% chance of showers today with a high of 48.
Your WPKY Weather Edge Weather Center forecast is brought to you by Community Medical.
Since 1978, Perry's Floors and More has been selling, installing, and servicing homeowners throughout Western Kentucky with quality flooring and workmanship. Perry's Floors and More carries luxury vinyl plank and luxury vinyl tile, carpet, window treatments, and more. Brands like Mannington, Shaw, Tarkett, Beaulieu, and Flexitech. Quality brands, excellent customer service, combined with 40 years experience is why they say you can walk on our reputation. See Bill and Lucy at Perry's Floors and More, 127 West Market Street, Princeton.
Hi, Caldwell County. I'm Allie Coleman with First Southern National Bank, and I'm ready to service your next loan. Whether you're wanting to build your first home, buy an investment property, or add square footage for your growing family, we can tailor a solution just for you. Stop by my office at 101 West Washington Street in Princeton, or give me a call at 270-365-3545 to apply today. First Southern National Bank, Equal Housing Lender, Federal Registry 409424, NMLS 1002990.
Welcome back to the Sideline Report. Want to tell you about Dave's Deal of the Week. It's Dave's Deal of the Week at U-Ride in Princeton, a 2017 Chevy Sonic. It's red in color, one owner, and gets great gas mileage. See Dave for details at U-Ride in Princeton. That's U-Ride, 310 Marion Road. Telephone 270-365-3215. We are back on the Sideline Report. Chris George joining us today from Bowling Green, and Gary Goodaker in the studios with us. We have talked some football. Let's go to a little more current topic now, although the AAF is playing, so football is still a current topic, but baseball season on the horizon, and Gary, high school season's almost on top of us.
Yes, this week they should be conducting tryouts for the high school baseball and softball, so those rosters should be solidified by the end of this week, which I guess is tomorrow. And then before you know it, we got some scrimmages. I know high school has their first scrimmage at McLean County the 9th of March, so that's about 2 weeks from now. And after that, another scrimmage at home. That will be Thursday, March 14th, hosting Union County. The first game is about less than a month away, March 18th, hosting Crittenden County. Softball, I believe, Todd, you've got the schedule in front of you.
Yeah, Monday, March 18th should be a big day to be at the ballpark. Henderson County's girls will be in town to play softball against the Lady Tigers, and that's probably a couple of second region contenders right out of the gate. And the Rattler Park complex will be a fun place to be that day. Hopefully the weather's great. This time of year, you never know, even not just day to day, but hour to hour sometimes. But, baseball and softball both opening at home on Monday, March 18th. And high hopes for both. Mentioned it on a show a week or two ago about how the Tiger baseball team may be a little bit overlooked this season because of how much it lost to the college ranks from last season. But I think the Tigers have enough pitching, enough big-time players that, they might be in the mix before things are all said and done.
You've still got with the Tigers a couple of pitchers who have college aspirations in Gabe East and Briar Riley as seniors. They've had plenty of mound time, so they're not strangers to playing in meaningful playoff games. You're still going to have plenty of kids with some experience. Some of them have less varsity experience than others, but they got into varsity games. Now they're going to have to be called upon to contribute night in, night out. So I think that you're going to have a slightly younger team, but one not devoid of big experience. Oliver Parker, I believe, started for 3 years. Tate Van Hooser started last year. You've got some bats that have come through with power and consistency, but you're going to have some young kids who are going to get a chance to be first-year varsity starters. And, yes, they may take a few lumps early, but I believe that we still have the pitching, not maybe to the extent we had last year, but I think our pitching will stack up with anybody in the district.
Hey, Chris, what do you have coming up for baseball season?
Well, I'll do a little bit of umpiring. I know the Tigers are coming up this way, so to play in the Bowling Green, the Bowling Green Warren County Spring Break Tournament. So hopefully I get assigned one of their games. If not, I definitely will be out to watch them when they go out to play at Warren East. Because I think they're on the
Warren East.
That's their site.
2:00 on April 4th. That is versus Warren East, and then 4:15 at Warren East, but playing Barron County. So yes, 2 games at Warren East on April 4th, and April 5th at Greenwood versus Greenwood.
That'll probably be at WKU because Greenwood is not playing any home games. Or
Oh, really? That would be nice. A game at
Yeah,
WKU.
Greenwood's field is not playable this season. I found that out yesterday.
Well, that is good news to know, especially if someone's going to travel and go to that game, they can make that note. But as for the baseball in the 4th region, you've been umpiring there a while. Would you say that the 4th region is going to be a very competitive region, or is it top-heavy?
Top-heavy. Probably Bowling Green has got to be Bowling Green, Glasgow. Probably have to be the odds of South Warren. Probably the odds-on favorites right now. Bowling Green starting to see the fruits of their 2 Little League World Series teams becoming sophomores and juniors. So I think it's kind of their time. But, who knows? The Tigers may face Ryan Hawks when they play Warren East.
And that's their draft eligible.
That's their ace.
That could be drafted.
Draft eligible kid going to sign with University of Louisville.
Right.
Pitched on the under 18 USA team. Great kid. Great arm. So the Tigers may face him, and he's just tough on the mound, I'll tell you. So that gives Warren East a chance to win anytime he's on the mound.
Chris, do you keep a pretty full schedule of umpiring through the high school season, or where are you at right now?
I do not, Todd.
Okay.
I'm sure if Jay Davis is listening, he's probably laughing right now because he was here yesterday selling umpire equipment at our meeting, and I was complaining about I didn't want to go out there to early April because it was too cold.
Well, I talked earlier about maybe some teams or some people overlooking Caldwell County because of everything they lost. But, Gary, as you pointed out earlier, we were looking on the Kentucky Prep Baseball Twitter account, and they had the second region poll up this year, and they had 3 teams listed. Caldwell County was still hanging in as one of those 3 teams on the list. So Caldwell County is still pretty fairly respected in the baseball ranks.
We're still relevant, there's no doubt. I think what people realize is that pitching is your key in the high school ranks. And as long as you've got a pitcher or 2, then teams make enough errors, people walk enough that if you can manufacture 2 or 3 runs, then your whole pitching staff can get you through a game if you really want to bad enough. And then you might not have somebody that's good enough to be a starter, but they can give you 2 hard innings as long as you don't turn the lineup over and see them more than one time. You can piece a 7-inning game together with about 2 or 3 good pitchers.
There are several pretty good teams.
In high school baseball have 2 dependable relievers.
Oh yeah.
Than 2 mid-level starters. If you give me 2 dependable relievers that are just going to go into a game and throw strikes and pitch to contact, that does so much more for your team than having what would be considered a middle-of-the-road starter, because that good reliever is going to get you out of more jams and get you through more games. Like Gary said, they can get you through
one time around,
get you a trip through the lineup and maybe eat up 2 or 3 innings. I just think relief pitching in high school is so key.
I do think that's what Caldwell's got to figure out in the first half of the season. I think they kind of know who their top 2 starters are for the most part. I think what they want to figure out is who do they have to get you through maybe innings 5 and 6 if 4 innings is as far as your starter can go. Because sometimes your pitches can accumulate in 4 innings and that's it, and you still got to get those 3 innings through. We may have those people, but I don't know if we know who they are yet.
Well, you think about getting into the district and the regional tournament, especially the regional tournament, when you got to win 3 games in 3 days. One of those games, your bullpen is going to have to piece together a game for you.
Well, that's the key. Last year, there were so many arms that I think that wasn't an issue. It was just who was the right person on that day. I think it's going to take half the year for the Tigers to figure out if the starters can only get you to 4 or 5, who's going to finish the game for you. And that's going to be the task of developing those pitchers. And the pitcher who does that in 2019 might become one of your top starters in 2020, and you've got to be looking for them to get innings on the mound that are quality and where the game's on the line, not just mop-up.
Well, you look at pitching and you think about what the the Rays did
With an
last
opener,
year a little
yes.
bit, where they went with a relief pitcher to start the game and kind of worked backwards. I mean, I think sometimes when you get into those high leverage regional tournament games, I'm wanting to put my kid out there that I know is going to throw strikes, be efficient with their pitches, and let their defense play behind them. Because with the new bats, it's not a power game in high school ball anymore. You've got to be able to make those routine plays and defensive plays and get your outs and be efficient with your pitches.
I kind of like that, though. I kind of like that baseball is getting back to what it was. And, sometimes in Major League Baseball, it just ends up being home run derby, and I don't think that's what baseball was ever intended to be.
Todd, who is a Tiger that you expect to really step up that nobody's really talking about? I mean, we've lost the likes of the Shane Burns, Jace Ron Felkers, who were our name players the last couple of years. With a younger roster, who's somebody that's really going to take a step forward and help the team this year?
Well, I'm not sure about the really young kids, but to me, Gabe East is one of those kids that I think really needs to come along and just take control of the pitching staff and the team, because he's one of those guys that has been a big, big part of the Tigers' success the last few years. And now that previous class is gone, and that was the leadership class for the last 3 or 4 years. Now that those guys are gone, somebody has to step up. And I always say that in high school sports, your team is only as good as your senior leadership, and I think that works for every sport. Occasionally you can have a team that doesn't have many seniors, and you can have a really solid junior class that kind of fills that role. But for the most part, I think you have to have some senior leadership. It can't be the coaches always telling everybody what they need to do. Sometimes it has to come from those players, and those guys have to take ownership of their team and be those leaders on the squad.
So will we get, I guess baseball, softball will be the first sport since your transition. Will we who aren't in town get some type of preview from your Sports Edge?
I'm sure we'll be doing some kind of preview. I don't know exactly what yet. Certainly we'll look to expand it and try to provide all the coverage that we've provided in the past.
I had to put you on the spot.
Yeah, thanks.
I think with softball, I think we do have a lot of good senior leaders. I think at least 4 of them have signed to play at the next level. When you have your pitcher coming back, I think in softball it's so much more crucial. You've got Katie Franklin in the circle, and she's seen about all of it. So, and when they want to play on, this is not their last hurrah. So I actually think that works to the advantage of the softball team, that they want to go out the right way and go into their transition to college with as much success as possible to prove to their future coach that they've seen high leverage situations. I mean, Katie just pitched in the regional finals, and you've got Emma Staples who's going to play on, and Haley Stiles, and who's the other one?
Moshi Glover.
Moshi.
Yeah, there you go.
Moshi. There you go. And they're gonna be leaders.
Should we be considered the favorites in softball? I mean, with all of that, or I don't know much about second region softball.
Christian County is the defending champion, and they're going to be right there. Webster County is pretty good. Madisonville North Hopkins is still pretty good. Henderson County, I think, has a new coach, so they might get into the mix this year. Lyon County is going to be solid. Trigg County is going to have one of its better teams.
Oh, wow.
I think Caldwell County is definitely in the top 2 or 3, however you throw that out there. Made a great run last year in the regional tournament all the way to the championship game, and just ran out of gas in about the 9th inning or whatever it was against Christian County. And, I think Caldwell County is right there with anybody in the region. It's just the regional is going to be so difficult this year, kind of like in boys basketball. There's just so many people that on the right day can beat somebody.
I think you're going to see both Caldwell baseball and softball be senior-led, majority seniors in the lineup, and I think you're going to see them both be very competitive. I don't know if you could consider them the favorite in either, but I don't think you could discount either to get to the regional final and perhaps even win it. And if we were an All-A this year, I'd feel very good, but that's going to have to wait till next year.
And Chris, and right now I'm not even exactly sure what WPKY is going to carry this spring as far as baseball and softball. I do know that it's looked on very favorably by ownership, and that it'd certainly be my wishes to make sure we get those games on the air. But we'll see how things go, and we'll do everything we can to cover all those teams as well as we possibly can.
So, Todd, why don't you tell ownership, definitely cover them when they come to Bowling Green. I'll go on the air with you.
Okay.
From Warren East.
Well, I know Bob Hayes has called those games in the past, and he's certainly looking forward to it and fired up about the new season coming up. So, we just need to get some plans in order and get some things going.
Well, if y'all need your Bowling Green bureau chief to help out during the Warren County Invitational, just send somebody with the equipment, and I'll be more than happy to step up and help out. I'd love it.
Looking to the Major League Baseball schedule coming up, of course, all three of us have different rooting interests. I'm a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and Gary's a Chicago Cubs fan, and Chris, you like the Atlanta Braves. So I think we're all going to be in the mix this year one way or another. At least I hope so.
I do think that the Central is so close that the bottom of the Central is so much better than the bottom of the East and West. And since you play such an unbalanced schedule, I don't think the Central can take but one team. I don't see the either wild card coming out of the Central. I think that the depressed records will cause this NL Central champion to be the three. I think that the East and the West have much better chances of getting the wild cards.
I believe the West is going to get the wild card because the East is going to be a bloodbath between the Braves, the Phillies,
Washington,
the Nationals, and the Mets. I mean, it's going to be a bloodbath.
Whereas the Padres are going to be a team that they can beat up on, I still think. And it looks like Arizona's taken a step back, unloading some of their talent, Goldschmidt especially. And then you've got, like I said, the Dodgers are still good, of course. And the Giants, we just don't know. The Giants may be good. They may not be. It's possible that the Rockies and the Dodgers get to beat up on 3 weak teams, and the Dodgers get easily one of the wild cards, or the Rockies, whichever one doesn't win the division.
I mean, and if the Phillies, Glenn Harper or Machado with Rillamoto and everything else they've got, they're just going to be...
They got McCutchen.
Unreal. And they got McCutchen. They're going to be unreal. As much as I don't want the Yankees to get one or both of them, I'm rooting for the Yankees or the Dodgers to get one or both of them just to keep them away from the Phillies.
Well, one thing I want to ask you guys about is the proposed baseball changes that keep getting talked about. And, the number one thing that always comes up, and I think this is going to be this is probably going to happen sooner or later, and that's a universal designated hitter in both leagues. And I don't know that I like that. I kind of like the National League the way it is, but it just seems like everybody in charge of Major League Baseball and even the Players Association, they're going to get behind this, and at some point we're having the DH in everything.
No, that's terrible. Boo.
Yeah, I don't like it, but I think it's coming.
But I do think what's going to happen, though, is the main thing I see is they're going to try to limit relievers. They're going to try to make you either pitch, 3-batter minimum or only carry so many. And I think what's going to happen is with the DH being perhaps universal, I think they're going to start looking at the Brendan McKays and the Shohei Ohtanis. I think they're going to try to look at two-way players. I think they're going to give people a chance to, my 13th reliever is actually my second baseman. And I think they're going to look at people who have that skill set, and I believe they're going to look to develop it in the D1 college baseball. They're going to look for people there that can do it at that level and then give them a chance in the minor leagues, because I do think that there's going to be reliever-related rules coming up, and that's going to make these people, there are only going to be probably about 10 of them sprinkled through major leagues, but I think that's going to be a way of the future, is they're going to finally have two-way players.
Yeah. I think we're going to see the
now,
DH.
Of the rules changes, I am in favor of something related to a minimum batter's face. I'm tired of, especially in the postseason, where you get 5 pitchers in a row because they all come in to face one batter.
Kind of tough to implement, though. I've seen that where they want to have a 3-batter minimum for pitchers, but what if the guy just comes in and gets absolutely shelled, those first 2 guys, and now he has to pitch to another one? I don't know. I don't like that. The 20-second pitch clock, I think, is something that we're going to see. I think they'll probably lower the mound at some point just because MLB wants a lot of runs scored. But I think a lot of these proposed changes have been thrown out there because I think at some point it's going to be one league. There's not going to be an American League. There's not going to be a National League. It's just going to be Major League Baseball. and there'll probably be, maybe 4 divisions with 8 teams in each division. You'll all play the same, be the same rules. There won't be American League or National League. They'll take the division champions and who knows, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wild cards. However many playoff teams Major League Baseball eventually wants to get to is what they'll do. And I think all these proposed baseball changes are sort of a precursor to them changing the very way the leagues are set up for Major League Baseball. So,
well, I'm sitting here looking at my office wall, looking at my ballparks of the Major League. I guess I better get busy. So I can say I saw all the American League parks.
Or they're just not
American League.
Until they're just MLB parks.
I think that's coming.
Yeah.
I think that's what Major League Baseball is doing all this for, is to change everything. I think they want to be, they want to be like the NFL or the NHL or the NBA when it comes to, having its divisions and having all these wild card teams, and they probably won't even be wild card teams.
They'll just be seeded 1 through 8.
Yeah, you'll just seed the teams 1 through 8 and go at it. I mean, that'll be it.
But even in football, you still have the AFC and the NFC. And,
True.
And NBA, you have the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference.
Well, then maybe they could be ahead of the curve there and say, well, we're different. We're the innovative ones. It's going to be interesting.
I do like the expansion of the roster. I do believe they should expand the roster just a little bit.
I would agree with you on that one. And I think we'll get 2 more expansion teams. I think Major League Baseball's goal is to get to 32 teams. Then you can have those 4 divisions with 8 teams apiece. It makes scheduling easy, makes the math work out easy. I think that's where we're headed. I don't know how quickly we'll get there, but I think that's where Major League Baseball wants to get.
Where do you expand, though? What are the 2 markets that are lacking?
Well, I think
Gary,
Montreal ends up with a team, and I think Charlotte ends up with a team. Gary?
Charlotte.
I've heard Charlotte. I've heard Nashville. Nashville, Rob Manfred
on the
broke
list,
up.
yeah.
Nashville, Portland, Oregon is another one. So I think the 32nd one, if you will, which would probably be an AL team unless they could coerce a team to move, because it's almost certain they would put an NL team in Montreal. But we don't know if NL doesn't exist. It may not be even a point. It just may be the 31st and 32nd. It's going to be interesting.
See, to me, it's got to be maybe Charlotte. I do believe that area is devoid. But I'm a Mexico City guy.
That would be interesting.
It's going to be interesting, though, because they couldn't get a field ready for the Rams and Chiefs.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to make sure they've got the field infrastructure ready to go, which I'm sure MLB would do a lot more planning than the NFL seemed to do in that situation.
Albuquerque.
The Isotopes. Now we're talking.
And I'm not sure Las Vegas is out of the equation. Did anybody mention Las Vegas?
Not.
No.
I think they would need an indoor
They'd
stadium,
have to have
but
an indoor stadium. It's too hot.
They'd have to have an indoor stadium.
But I'm kind of a purist. I just don't like them messing with the game that much. It's they keep trying to fix it, and there's nothing really wrong with it.
I do think Nashville, if they got an AL team, assuming they stayed NL, AL, because Nashville's surrounded by NL teams, Cardinals, Reds, Braves, that region of the nation could see more Yankees and Red Sox come in. They could get a following if we stay NL, AL, but as we've said before, that may not be the situation.
Well, I want to thank you guys for joining us this morning. We're about to run out of time. I do want to get to one other thing, though, real quick with Gary. The first pitch banquet coming up pretty quick for the college baseball team.
Saturday, March 2nd, 2019, we're going to have our third Collier County Tiger Baseball first pitch banquet. It's been a great success the previous 2 years. It's at the Collier County High School cafeteria. If you're interested in getting individual ticket for $20, you get pork loin, baked potato, salad, a dessert, and a drink. It's always a wonderful meal. They're going to have former Tiger coaches. Phil Van Hooser is going to speak. They're going to honor Sammy Jones, one of our former coaches, and they have an auction at the end, which is, of course, all this is a fundraiser for the Collier County Tiger baseball team. So if you know the parent of a Collier County Tiger baseball player, then you can seek them out, and they'll be glad to sell you a ticket. For $50, a baseball alum can get a ticket, a guest ticket, and a gift. So this would be an excellent opportunity to support the Collier County Tiger baseball team, have a nice night at the high school cafeteria. And like I said, you can have an auction. It's not just baseball material, although some of it is. There's a lot of things there for auction that just anybody might like. So that's Saturday, March 2nd, going to be less than 2 weeks away.
All right, Chris, thanks for joining us again from Bowling Green, and we'll have to talk to you again sometime.
Anytime. Next time I'm coming. Next time I'm going to be in studio.
That would be awesome. We just got to get that planned out so we can all be here.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Y'all
Thanks,
have a
Chris.
good day.
Thanks.
See ya.
Good to talk to you, Chris.
Bye.
And Gary, appreciate you coming to the studio and being with us this morning. And,
Always enjoy it.
Again, we'll have to do this again sometime.
I'm sure you'll work me in sometime. I'll be happy to come whenever I can.
That's Gary Goodaker and Chris George joining us on the Sideline Report today. That's going to wrap up our show. Thanks for listening to the Sideline Report. This is Todd Griffin on 1580 103.3.
Serving Caldwell County since